Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Alrighty, welcome back. Our guest today here is Crystal Lugo. Crystal, please tell us where you are in the world and what you do for a living.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, Matt. I am in Virginia Beach, and I like to call myself a mompreneur. So I'm a mom and I'm an entrepreneur.
Amazing.
I'm the founder and inventor of the Glove Scaler, and our company is called B&C's Gloves. And we are the first innovative fish handling glove that is a 2-in-1 product, a glove and a fish scaler, where you can grip and scale fish by using your hands.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was just taking a look at the website, and I certainly haven't seen anything like this before. So tell me how you got the idea for this. Obviously it's kind of the first thing of its kind. So the problem that you were solving is kind of self-evident in that way, but tell me kind of what experiences led you to developing this product and ultimately launching a full-scale brand this way.
Yeah, absolutely. So my journey really began as a child. I always loved to be innovative, kind of always think outside the box. So I always knew entrepreneurship was the route I was going to go as an adult. And so I went to Virginia Wesleyan College, really small private school around here in Hampton Roads area. And I went into business, and I knew I wanted to own a business. At the time, it was a bank. I wanted to own my own bank. But once I got working in the bank, I'm like, not so much. But what really inspired me to really hone into my innovative skills was having to give up my corporate career at a very young time in my career. My husband and I decided to start a family, and the cost of childcare was astronomical. So being at home for the first year was exciting, but Matt, I really felt like I was losing myself as a woman, as a businesswoman, and I knew I could add so much more value to the corporate world, but I didn't know how. And I was on a mission to seek what my why was, what my path was to make a pivotal point in my life. And so it was kind of like, I call it a Kairos moment, where destiny meets up with your future, right? And I was working this call center job, very mundane, and I had a 15-minute break, and my husband was watching a show called Shark Tank at the time. And I didn't even know what the show was. And so I asked my husband, he says, it's this show where entrepreneurs pitch their business or invention and to see if they can get a deal and live their American dream. And so I stood there in total amazement, Matt. And I'll never forget the episode of this firefighter saying how every second counts as a life lost if he could not get in this burning building. And so he began to describe what he invented, this tool that can unlock the bolt off of a fire hydrant, because it's a 3-man job, because it's so hard to take off. And so there's a stop clock, and he said, start. And as they started the time, he was done within 3 seconds. And Mark Cuban was like, I'm going to buy you out for $1 million. And that was, I wish I had a light bulb. I like to put it over my head. That was my aha moment. Like, you're going to invent something. And I was on a mission that night, and I lie not. I said, I'm not going to sleep until I create or invent something that's practical, revolutionary, and that could be used worldwide. And I'm like, what in the world am I going to create? So I didn't go to sleep, but I prayed. And I'm like, God, give me that idea. And I lie not. I was just thinking of, what could I improve? A mixer, a comb, a blender, you name it. And it was that moment that I had a vision of the glove scaler. And it really resonated with me because as a kid growing up, my father would take my brother and I fishing. We lived on like this 22.5-acre lot. And there was this probably a 5 radius pond in our backyard. And there was stocked with fish. And my dad would always tell me, be careful when you're handling certain fish, especially catfish, because it has this very spiky spine that can, if you're not handling correctly, poke you and can cause bacteria. And so it was like it all unfolded of my background fishing as a kid. My grandfather was a fisherman, had a boat. He would fish every weekend. And it's here I had this vision of this product, and it was just a miracle. And I didn't know really there was nothing else on the market until I did my research. And how blessed am I to be the only one who was blessed that God gave me this idea to be the one to execute this one and only product that can eliminate punctures, can be reusable, that is durable, eliminates the tool. I always call it like the Ice Age tool, the traditional fish scaler tool, but combine the two in one that will solve a problem and cut your time in half.
That's really amazing. And when was this exactly? Like, when was this? When did you get this kind of like aha moment for the brand?
Great idea. This was in 2011 of September. I'll never forget it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So I see you obviously have the website. So I'm curious, like, what has kind of been your biggest driver of revenue for the brand since its inception? Do you do a lot of wholesale with it, or how much are you doing like kind of direct to consumer versus what you're doing in wholesale or any other channels that you sell through?
So that's a great question. And I just want to circle back to, I know when we talk about the inception of when did I come up with this idea, but it wasn't like, just from my idea, now I'm generating revenue, right? Like it was a process. So it's from getting the idea. How do you get the idea now out of your head into something tangible that you can now show investors or now create a product that makes sense and testing. So during those years, I made my first prototype mat because there was no company that could actually the product that I was trying to articulate to them. So I went to like the Hobby Lobby stores and I sketched it out in my hand and I knew what I wanted to do. And so one company told me it cost $30,000 just to try. As a mom and on one income with my husband, we weren't having that. So yeah, I made my first prototype and it worked. And so I refined it. And that's where a lot of young entrepreneurs and inventors can go wrong by spending thousands of money right away instead of perfecting and trying to test and do a lot of that yourself. So those couple years took a lot of time of finding a company that can really bring my product to light. And so during those years was really me just trying to bring product awareness, like you said, my website, building my website. So this year, honestly, Matt, is our launching year. We have been pre-revenue up until that point. We've had a vet manufacturers who said they couldn't make it. So we have really partner now with a company. We have a design engineer company, product design company that has helped us refine our models now from taking it from just something I made now to conceptualize that in words that a manufacturer now can understand and read the dimensions and all of that. It's so much nitty gritty stuff. So really this is our launching year and we're excited that we have possibly a partnership we're in talks with Realtree to really partner with them to really bring this brand out to hit the big box stores and to just show the world that this is a great product. And so we're excited about that pending partnership, getting all the cross your T's, dot your I's. So hopefully we should have an announcement soon. So right now we're really just working on that, working our mass production to finalize our final product before we go to mass production, because we did a small testing batch of samples and we sold out, right? So our customers don't really want to, as I would say, wait for the product. They want it now. So they're anxious to get it now.
That's amazing. Yeah. And so I guess that's kind of one of like the best and worst things about having like an idea that's as novel as this is trying to find partners to work with manufacturing and things, because they obviously are not making anything similar. So to do something from scratch, to have like a new original process to produce something like this, like you said, they asked for $30,000 just for a sample. Yeah, it's very expensive, but you also have the luxury of being the only thing on the market that's like this, right? So can you kind of talk me through, because we have a lot of entrepreneur listeners naturally that listen to the podcast, right? What was your kind of process like in making sure that this idea stayed with you? What kind of routes did you go down to make sure that this was not something that was going to be kind of ripped off and replicated after it gets on the market?
Right. Excellent question. The first thing you want to do is protect your idea. So you want to get your legal in place.
Mark Cuban told me that.
Exactly. You want to first get it patent pending. And so there's different routes where you can go with that. I would say the non-expensive route is to a provisional patent. You want to start there because it's actually like your DMV ticket, right? Holding your spot in line before you have 12 months to basically figure everything out. Do your testing, do your marketing, do, your customer discovery. You want to make sure you have all your ducks in a row before you spend those thousands of dollars to file for your full patent, whether it's a utility or a design patent and or your trademarks as well. And so that's what I started with. I started with a provisional patent. I had 12 months to kind of refine it, make some tweaks to the design. I wanted to make sure I had the full protection of my glove. And I'm sorry, I guess I should have been showing the glove.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so this is the glove. And of course there's two. This is the glove scaler, which has the spikes. I know it looks kind of intimidating because, they're like, are you going to scrape your hand? No, it's so gentle. We wanted to make it so dull that it will not rip the skin off of the fish because that would be damaged, of course.
Right.
So yeah, you want to make sure your legal stuff is in place before you do any type of mass branding or mass promoting your product. You want to make sure you have your legal stuff in place. So now if anybody comes after you, you can say, hey, well, I already filed this. So now you have to decease and back off kind of order.
No, it's so important with a product like this because it's not very often you find brand owners that have such a novel idea like this. And if anybody listening does have an idea like this, they eventually want to take to the market and develop and do these things. I mean, it's one of the most important things, in my opinion. That's probably the number one way people get, I think, really derailed with a really cool and unique and novel idea is not having those things in place. So I think that insight's really important, I think, for people to understand and kind of hear your experience about. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Oh, absolutely.
And then I'm curious too, like, I know you had the kind of the original idea like 2011, right? And now you're kind of having your big launch here. This is another area I find is really insightful for folks to understand is like sometimes your product development with life and everything else that you have going on, sometimes it does really take that long, and that's okay. Like everything is so rushed today. You hear these overnight success stories, people on TikTok and Instagram, and everybody thinks that's like, if you're not doing that, like something must be wrong, right? So kind of walk us through kind of your mental and developmental process from 2011 to you having your launch here now, over a decade later.
That is so important. And I'm glad you touched on that because I would say one of the top 5 questions that I have gotten as an inventor, as a businesswoman, why has it taken so long? And my response has been, of course, been developed over years. As you age, you get more wise, I would say, I would hope, with wisdom. And my journey has been protecting your investment. My journey has been protecting to making sure this is just not, like you said, some quick, rich, get scheme product. This has been methodically thought out. We have had risk and barriers on our dime, not yours, because, and don't get me, investors do not want a lot of risk. Even though there's risk, they don't want risk that will shut your business down. So we have made mistakes, and mistakes are okay because it just shows you that that's not the route to go and how to do it better. So during those years, it has been figuring it out, bootstrapping, collabing with strategic partners, understanding the market, understanding how customers evolve and change and what their needs and wants are. So it's really grasping all of those and making your brand better. And I understand that some people would say, just get it out there. It doesn't have to be perfect. No, it doesn't have to be perfect. I totally agree. But it's your name, and you don't want something that within 30 days falling apart and now your brand is having a bad appearance, right? So, and it's different too, because some products that launch, they may be an improvement upon another product. It's not something that has never, ever hit the market. It's very rare, far in between that you do have. So you can't put yourself in this box with everybody and moving the same path. No, you're trailblazing, making your own path. You're trailblazing, bringing your own seat to the table, right? And so that's what I had to focus on. I can't do it the way everybody used to do it or is doing it. I'm making my own path. I'm forging this way, making this momentum. And now if I do have a competitor come along, guess what? It's okay. I already gained the market share and I'll just go after them. Legally wise, so so they can stop what they're doing. But when competitors come, it's a compliment to you that you did something right.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. And I mean, once this really hits the market, I wouldn't be shocked if people try. You sound like you have the things in place where it'd be very difficult for that to be a possibility, which is really important again. And I think that's part of the reason why I think it's really important for people to hear like that you were so diligent in this process and making sure everything was, ready for your big launch here. Cause not from personal experiences with any conversations I've had or anything, but obviously everybody knows that like 90% of businesses fail. And there's a lot of avenues where things can kind of get derailed and it ends up, and all it does is it costs you money. It takes up your time. But if you do the necessary things up front and understand that like, how long those processes are going to take, don't get ahead of yourself with, the other things that are important with product development and everything else to make sure everything comes together at a time where it makes sense, which is kind of where you are right now, which is really interesting. I know you mentioned you did testing like a sampling and you said you got some good feedback and you sold out of that, which is awesome. What was kind of feedback you got when you did that sampling? What was kind of the most common feedback that you were getting, and did that lead you to make any changes, with the product itself?
Right. So absolutely. And you have to be ready to have that feedback that you don't want to hear, because you don't want everyone saying, this is awesome, I've never seen anything like this. Like, you already know that. You want to know, how can you better this? Because there might be that one person or an audience that says, you know what, did you ever think about this? So you have to be open-minded. And some of the feedback was, make sure it's fully waterproof, because, when you're having your hands in frigid cold water or ice, you want to make sure your hands are dry.
Yeah.
And so we already knew that. So it validated that we were on the right path for that. You want to make sure it's puncture resistant as possible, because when you're using your hands, which people have never used their hands before, scaling a fish, certain fish have different bones in different places. So they wanted to make sure that their hand wasn't going to get spiked, punctured through the glove. And so we're hearing those concerns and those pain points. And so we are definitely refining and trying to make this glove as puncture resistant as possible. Right now, I don't really know of any puncture proof glove on the market, but it's all how you use it, right? So it's just like a knife. You want to be careful how you use a knife. It's sharp, pointed, but there has been a lot of ouchies and boo-boos with a knife. Am I wrong? So it's same thing with the glove. We want to teach you safe handling procedures, how to hold down the spike so you don't puncture your fingers with that, and kind of teach our audience how to use it. So it's all teaching and educating our audience that how to properly use our glove that we've made to the best of our ability, but we're always looking to, advance it. Just like Apple, I like to use that. When Apple came out with, the first phone, they didn't come out with the phone number 15, right? So it's almost like having steps to develop, enhance, make better, listen to your customers, because they may not want that feature. And so that's where our ears are always open.
Yeah. And so barrier to entry using something like this, I mean, maybe you get some people to buy it if never fished before, and they get it as a part of going fishing for the first time. I need to get my scaling gloves and all this stuff. But I don't think the barrier to entry with using something like this is super high. But even still, educating the consumer about your product it's challenging. It is. It's challenging to do it in a really robust and effective way. So what is kind of your strategy in that? You're trying to make sure people understand how to use it properly, how to do it safely. What kind of channels or your strategies are you looking to employ to make sure people understand?
So definitely testimonial videos or how-to videos. So definitely social media obviously would be the awesome platform. Trade show. We're scheduled to go to ICAST this year in July in Orlando, Florida. So we're super excited about that. So that's a great platform to use to have our videos going, showing our guests that come up to our booth, hey, look, watch this. This is the old way. This is the now. And have our video playing of a fisherman scaling the fish. We've had great testimonies from a fisherman, commercial fisherman that is, because like you said, there's different walks of life. People who never fished for the first time that says, hey, this is a cool gadget. And then you have your really fishermen and women who do this every day. And he said he's been fishing for over 30 years, scaling fish since he was a child. And he said if he had this glove back then, he said it would have protected his hands from scrapes, infections, bruises, and it would cut his time in half. He's like, this is a no-brainer. This is needed in this industry. And he was so excited. And another gentleman told me he's been in the fishing industry for 50 years. He's a distributor. He said, never in his life has he seen this. He said, this is a game changer. And he just was staring at it like it was a baby. Because he was like, this is amazing. So really having those testimonies playing, getting these gloves in our consumers' hands so they can try them. We want their feedback. We want their generated user feedback, not just coming from my mouth, but from the audience's mouth.
Right. Yeah. And that's actually a really interesting vertical. I don't know if you've I'm sure you've thought about it, but I know you're working on partnerships with more retail stores and wholesale that way. Have you considered doing a bigger push maybe now or in the future, with maybe some larger industrial organizations that might be interested in buying these things both for their employees, like big fishing companies or anything like that?
Absolutely. So yeah, that is really definitely on our go-to-market strategy. There's so many different channels. You want to master one before you master several. Right. And so that is one of on our radar to target commercial fisheries to who use this and for safe handling. Some use machines, but I also heard those machines can damage the fish when they start to go down and it can cost thousands of dollars. So they do look for different options that they can streamline the process. So we're hearing them. And so definitely partnering with them. And sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know that will get you in that door, that will pick up the phone. So we're working on that. And we're excited, even restaurants, right? Charter boats.
Yeah.
Like the sky is the limit. Anywhere there's water, there's fish. So this is not just a U.S. glove. This is an international global product. And we're really excited.
That's awesome. There's so many, I don't know. I keep like having this like internal brainstorm of like different verticals for this thing. It's so versatile and interesting. Like, I think about, chartered boats that would go on when I go to like the Jersey Shore on vacation to go like fishing for fluke or something. Like, how cool would it be if they allowed us to like keep them and like go through that process while we're there once we get back, and they gave everybody these gloves to be able to do that. Like, it'd be so cool. That's really awesome. So a couple questions I'll always love to ask everybody that comes on the podcast. The first one being, obviously it's been back since 2011. I know this is kind of like your launch here. We've obviously gone through a lot of different processes through legal and product development and finding manufacturers and all that kind of stuff. So if you could kind of go back to the start of your real push with, a lot of those things, knowing everything you know now and everything you've learned about the market and about everything, personal or business, what do you think would be like the one piece of advice you would give yourself if you could go back to the beginning?
That's a deep question. I might need like 60 seconds to deliberate on this.
Sorry, we have plenty of editing capacity, so don't worry.
It's just been so much I have gone through. So I think one of the advice I would give myself would be, it's okay to fail, be easy on yourself. Mm-hmm. I can be very hard on myself. I can kind of think failure is just end all be all, but don't get so bent out of shape that it validates the naysayers, because there are always going to be naysayers. So I would say to myself, it's okay to fail, just fail forward.
I think that's really good advice. And that's something that I've definitely heard before. And I think, anybody who is kind of entrepreneurial by nature kind of has that in them as well. And I think it's what drives businesses and brands and people to be great when they're entrepreneurs is like almost that fear of failure. Mm-hmm. And it's a hard thing to grapple with, but if you can deal with that in a healthy way, but still kind of maintain the drive that comes from that, I think that's what makes somebody really efficient and really great. So I think that's a really important insight for anybody listening that might be, thinking about starting a business or kind of in those beginning stages that are maybe making some mistakes along the way, or maybe are getting a little impatient with the things on the front end or taking a little longer than they were expecting. So I think it's a really great answer. I think it's very insightful and valuable for people to hear. So I just want to give you an opportunity to shout out your socials, your website, any way people want to keep in touch, and let people know again. I know you were talking about one, partner that you were working with already. Just tell us that again, people might be able to find it, what that timeline is like, and how to keep in touch with the brand as it continues to move forward.
Absolutely. So we are possibly looking to partner with Realtree, which is a very large outdoor sporting good company that does a plethora of things with camouflage design patterns for hunting. They're also expanding into their fishing products, and all cool kind of camping outdoor products. And so they're really well known in the outdoors community as well globally. So we're really excited about that partnership pending. And you can follow me on Instagram, which is so simple. I make everything simple. Glove Scaler. So Glove Scaler is on TikTok, Instagram. I think that's about it right now. Mm-hmm. But also you can follow me on my website. It's glovescaler.com.
Perfect.
So I just like to brand it. Glove Scaler. You can't beat that.
No, you can't. That's awesome. All right. Well, Crystal, I just want to say thank you again for coming on. Incredible conversation. I really appreciate your time. I wish you nothing but success and continued success in everything that you're doing. I think it'll be great. It's such an awesome and novel idea. So thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Matt. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Crystal. Thanks, everybody.